in our lesson, we saw how we begin life in the womb as the single cell called a zygote, and that it gets a contribution from mom and from dad. Now, there's actually 46 chromosomes that are in here for a normal, healthy baby, but this is definitely easier to keep track of when you only see 2. So this is a diploid cell because it has set from mom and dad. So we're going to start with this zygote. How does this one cell somehow become a really cool, complex looking baby? So the first thing that would have to happen is this zygote, this single cell, is going to have to divide and make more just like it. So it's going to make a whole big ball of cells, and they're all going to be exactly alike because they all started with this set of chromosomes. So that's the only thing it has to go by. It's just going to make a whole bunch of identical cells. This process is called mitosis. And I think you have talked about that some in 7th grade, so we are bringing it back. How does mitosis work? Here's an overall picture of it. This one cell, here's the zygote, is, we'll say that's mom's chromosome and there's dad's. The end result needs to look like 2 cells that are identical to the first one. So in order for that to happen, this red one has to make a copy of itself. See, now it looks like an X. And this one, the little blue one, has to make a copy of itself. So this is called DNA replication. That is what's happened from here to here. So now that we have a copy, this cell is going to start growing and stretching, pulling itself apart. So that by the end, we have half of that red on this side and the other half of the red on this side, and same thing for the blue. Now we have 2 cells that are identical to the one we started with. So that is the big picture. I'm going to compare this entire process to a football game. It's going to be a little different, and forgive the fact that some of the pictures look like I'm switching up teams. I just needed some good pictures. Here's the first phase, and I'm going to call this the preparation before the game, because interphase is what the cell does before it divides. So the cell division I'm going to compare to the game, the football game. So the interphase is before the game. This is the nucleus, and it's just full of a big blob of chromosomes. Those chromosomes are going to be compared to our football players. We've got 2 teams here. So they are huddled up here, and the other team is huddled up. So they're all in this nucleus, huddled up together. Can't really even tell a lot of jersey numbers or faces. You can't tell who's who. So that's what the chromosomes are doing, just all huddled up. Here you have these tiny little structures called centrioles. Their job is to help cells divide, so that's what they're going to do. So you got one set here and the other set here. They're going to be at the end zones of the football field, so the whole cell is the football field. Each one kind of puts off these little lines called spindle fibers, so I'm going to relate those to the cheers. So here we go. Before the game, cheerleaders, this team's kind of practicing, and this other team's practicing by themselves. So this is the preparation phase. All of the parts are just preparing for the game. Now, mitosis means that cell division has started, so our comparison means that the game has started. Here's our cell. So now the football players have come out of their huddle. See, this is the nucleus kind of starting to disappear. I can see individual X's. So I have lined up, here's one team, and you can actually see jersey numbers and faces. So that's one team becoming more visible, and here's the other one. You can kind of see who's who. So that is what happens during prophase with the football players. Here is one team of cheerleaders. They are cheering really loud. The other team is doing the same thing. So you have this little cheering that's starting since the game began. So here's one cheerleader group, and here's the other one. So that is prophase. The next phase is metaphase. Remember that by the meta, in the middle. Here they are lined up in the middle of the field. So that'd be the 50-yard line. The cheerleaders are really cheering loud. You see that it goes all the way across the field. They're just having a good time with that. Football players are going to be playing their game. Here they are lined up, getting ready to hike the ball. on the 50-yard line. So the cheerleaders are cheering loud, they're cheering on each football player, and this team is doing the same thing. So they're at each end zone doing that. So they play hard, play their game. During the game, the next phase I'm going to call anaphase. Here's what happens. So look, this football player, part of it goes this way and the other team goes to the other end zone. So I'm going to say what happened here must be a fake. This side must have thought that the ball went this way. So they're heading to this end zone hoping for their tackle. But the other side, they must have thought that it faked this way. So anaphase is a separation that happens. Each team is heading toward the opposite end zone, toward the cheerleaders. Telophase is where they had to regroup, take a timeout, and this group had to take a timeout because they were obviously wrong. The football was not over there. So one group's over here. You can see right at the 50-yard line that it is separating. You have one huddle that's in the timeout trying to re-strategize. The cheerleaders are trying to regroup. Same thing on this side. This is telophase. So this is my football field. They're totally separated on each side, and they're basically going to have to start the play all over. Cytokinesis is going to show you how does it go from being still stuck together to being two separate cells. So you have all your contents that are ready. Then all that happens is our huddle gets back, where you cannot really see the individual chromosomes again. And I'm going to compare it to this guy. He's going to paint the line across the 50-yard line. So that is cytokinesis. Well, animals and plants have to be different from each other. They couldn't possibly keep it simple. Animals, when they start separating, they form this thing called a cleavage furrow. So this is a brain cell. I think that's a skin cell. They are forming the cleavage right there. But plants, they can't go by the same name. They have to call it a cell plate. It is kind of a more rigid structure that forms between the two cells, and that will eventually become the cell wall. So that is two cool terms for cytokinesis that happens at the end of cell division. So just to do a little practice with that, since your assignment will be to look at these phases, let's look at what's happening. This is the first one. The chromosomes it's just really dark in the center of the nucleus, and you couldn't really count each chromosome if you had to. So you could identify that as interphase. Now the difference between that and the next one is there is a lot of white space, and you could count them if you absolutely had to. So that's the difference between interphase and prophase. It moves from this to, it looks like a stitch because they're all in the center. This is metaphase. And then those center ones start pulling apart, look like little fingers. And that's how this is still a round, one single cell. And the only thing separating is the chromosomes. So this is anaphase. And here you can start to see the two cells because the chromosomes still look the same. But this is becoming telophase. Here they are a little more separated. You could call this cytokinesis. So here's the overall order. So this is interphase, prophase. Oh, you can't see that. Metaphase, anaphase, telophase, and cytokinesis. So I, and then P, M, A, T, and C. These four are mitosis. So you can remember that by saying, please make a touchdown. So prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. So to prepare for that, you have interphase. To separate them completely, cytokinesis at the end. Here's another little practice for you. This is what you'll be doing. Looking at the cell, let's look at A first. You just have to ask yourself, what are the chromosomes doing? So they do not look like X's anymore. They've been pulled apart. So what do you think this phase is called? That's right, it is anaphase. Move on to B. I see this nucleus here, just kind of huddled up chromosomes. What phase do you think that is? Good, that is interphase. What are these chromosomes doing here? Look at the spindle fibers connected to them. Got these little centrioles at the end. What would you call this phase? Good, that is metaphase. This one is a little different. It has some similarities between B and D, but look at the one important difference to tell you what phase that is in. So what phase is this? Good, that is prophase. Then at the end, the biggest giveaway, you got these two pieces here, and you have two separate huddles right here. What would you call this? Right, that is, you could say telophase and cytokinesis, because a lot of times you'll see those two together. All right, and that is it. You will have an assignment to do after this.